Oh, good morning, everyone. Now we're going to talk about my dearest friend, Mr. Pink-Whistle today. But before we start, we've got to have our song. Are you ready? Good morning, I hope you're well today. The sun is shining, the sky is blue, the flowers are sparkling, just like you. Good morning, I hope you're well today. Keep safe, have a good day. It's beautiful in the Bahamas. We're very lucky to be here. Okay, today we're going to start with a dear friend of mine, Mr. Pink-Whistle. I've been telling Mr. Pink-Whistle stories for a very long time. And you know the reason? The reason is because when I was a little girl, which is a long time ago, I used to read Enid Blyton's Mr. Pink-Whistle. I would start at the beginning and I would go all the way through, perhaps not in one day, and then when I got to the end, I would start all over again, because all Enid Blyton's tales are happy tales. They have a really nice ending. Sometimes we don't get that, but you know, the one today is going to have a very nice ending. Let me tell you about Mr. Pink-Whistle. Mr. Pink-Whistle, as you can see him here, let me put it here so I don't have to turn so quickly. Okay, Mr. Pink-Whistle is a funny little man, and he's jolly, he's always smiling, he's always happy. He's quite unusual. If you look, his ears are pointed. Some of you today will know about Mr. Spock. He has ears just like Mr. Spock because he's half a fairy and half an elf. And he's magic. He always wears very nice jacket, nice trousers, and a lovely shirt. He's always clean, he's always smiling, but he's magic. And you know what his magic is? He can make himself invisible. He just has to say the magic words. And those of you who know me, see if you can remember those magic words. He goes, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Whistle pink! And he turns round and he's gone. He can do lots of things when he's gone. And in this particular book that I'm taking this story from, it's called Mr. Pink-Whistle Interferes. I even found it on my iPad last night. What would I find it in, Sarah? I Googled it, like most people do, right? Now, one day, Mr. Pink-Whistle was walking through his little village. Oh, he was always looking to help people. And that was his aim in life. He just wanted to make sure that people were good. He was walking through this little village and he saw an old man. Can you see him, look? He's let me see if I've got him there. There we are. Look at his face. Oh, he was a real grumpy old man, and he was going along and muttering to himself, and he got a stick, and he was knocking the stick against a wall. And Mr. Pink-Whistle followed behind him to see what was wrong. And then after a little while, Mr. Pink-Whistle said, Sir, are you unhappy? I'm a blind man and nobody likes me and I don't have any friends and... Mr. Pink-Whistle said, no, now, come on, everybody has friends, everybody's got a family. He said, I live by myself, I don't have any friends. So go away and leave me alone. Do you think Mr. Pink-Whistle left him alone? He followed him while he went to the store, and he bought things at the store and the shops, and then he went off, and he followed him all the way home. And he lived in a little cottage, very neat and tidy, and Mr. Pink-Whistle followed him right inside the house because, of course, Mr. Pink-Whistle didn't care. The blind man was blind. He couldn't see him. And so Mr. Pink-Whistle watched, and the grumpy old man sat down, and he made himself a cup of tea, and he sat there all by himself, and he was very lonely, and Mr. Pink-Whistle felt very sorry. And then he left, and he thought, well, what could I do for that old man? What could I do? Well, as it happened, he was going along, and there was a pond, and he heard this noise. Now, perhaps you and I might not have heard it, but you see, Mr. Pink-Whistle had those pointy ears, and Mr. Pink-Whistle was magic. He could hear when dogs or any animal cried. And this was a cry from a dog, and this was miserable. Help me, help! Mr. Pink-Whistle ran to the edge of the pond, and he looked around, and in the pond in front of him was a sack, a brown sack, and Mr. Pink-Whistle pulled it out of the water, and he tore the string off it, and he looked inside, and there was a drowning puppy, and someone had put this little puppy in the bag, and they'd put a brick in the bag with him, and it was going to drown that poor dog. And Mr. Pink-Whistle grabbed the dog, and he took a big handkerchief out of his pocket, and he wiped that dog. And the dog said to me, I know I'm ugly, I know I'm an ugly dog, but there's no need to drown me. And Mr. Pink-Whistle said, certainly not. And you're not ugly. Well, not really ugly. And the dog said, yes, I am. Nobody wants me. Mr. Pink-Whistle said, then I shall find someone for you. And Mr. Pink-Whistle dried him on his big handkerchief and opened his coat and shoved him in one of his pockets, because that's what Mr. Pink-Whistle did. So Mr. Pink-Whistle thought, wow, now who would I know that would need a dog? That old grumpy man, that's what he needs. He needs a dog. Wow. So Mr. Pink-Whistle hurried to that little old man's cottage, and he went inside, and he said, hi, I'm back again, and I brought a dog for you. What? I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. Nobody wants dogs. They're dirty, and they climb on the furniture, and they eat all your food. I don't want a dog. Oh, we could hear a little whimpering inside Mr. Pink-Whistle's pocket. Oh, no, he doesn't want me. But Mr. Pink-Whistle took out the dog, and he put it gently by Mr. Pink-Whistle's foot. Well, could I just leave this for a little while, and I'll go and find someone who would look after that little dog. I'll just leave him with you. Perhaps you could give him some milk or some water. Okay. Well, don't be long then, said the grumpy old man. Okay. So there you see, I've drawn that sack. Can you imagine being tied up in that sack, and with a brick inside it as well to drown him? And you know, I've tried to draw a real grumpy little dog. His ears were a bit too long, and his tail was too long, and his legs were too short. I mean, he wasn't the most beautiful dog, but he had a very big heart. Well, there was the grumpy old man, and there was the dog. And you know what? That night, the grumpy old man gave the little dog some water, and he gave him perhaps a little bit of meat from what he was having for dinner, and the little dog just kept sitting and getting nearer and nearer to the old man. And the old man said, now don't become too friendly. Someone's coming to get you soon. And he said, well, I'm going to sit on my chair now, my big comfortable chair. Don't you jump on my chair. And so the dog was very good, and he sat right on Mr. Pink-Whistle's, on the old man's feet. And then the old man said, well, I'm going to bed now. That man hasn't come. I expect he'll come in the morning, and you better stay there. So the old man got his pajamas on, and he got into his bed, and guess what that little dog did? He went right to the side of the old man's bed. Now go away, you can't go on my bed, said the grumpy man. The little dog got a little bit nearer and a little bit nearer, and when the old man was sort of half asleep, he sort of crawled on the bed and just lay very quietly. And a little while, the grumpy old man's hand started to just rub his head and rub his ears a little bit, and that's how it all happened. And soon that grumpy old man had a very, very lovely dog. Do you think Mr. Pink-Whistle went back the next morning? No, he didn't. Mr. Pink-Whistle took a couple of days, and then one morning he burst into that old man's cottage and he said, hi, I'm here, how are you? Oh, said the old man, have you come to take the dog? You can't take the dog. No, 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 no. I love that dog. I love that dog. You can't take the dog. Oh, thank you for bringing that dog to me. He is my friend. And they both lived happily ever after. Let me show you. Here he is, in his pajamas. There he is in bed. Now remember, this is my version of Enid Blyton. And do you know, I just love the stories. I have 2 or 3, but this particular one is for Letitia Parker, who used to come to my school, and she loved Mr. Pink-Whistle. I hope you like them too. Perhaps I'll find some more, and perhaps I'll look online. Might even be online. Okay, have a wonderful day. Goodbye. Wash your hands. Keep your distance. Love you all. Bye.